So the next step, logically, is to prepare the power supply. I have already liberated a SFX power supply of all its cables, and I am now going to remove all the Amiga original cables from the modified power supply that was in the Amiga, and let's see how that goes. I hope this will be a quick job, but I'm not certain of it. Let's see. I did make one hell of a mess when I pulled all the cables from the SFX power supply. And I burned myself quite a number of times in the process. I didn't really enjoy that. But you gotta do what you gotta do. So this is what's left of the ATX connector. I still have all the wires on it that are still needed, and that are non-standard, like not 3.3 volt, not 5 volt, not 12 volt or ground, but like, for example, power supply on -12, the 3.3 volt power good, 5 volt standby, which, for example, I could just cut off because I'm not going to use it, things like that. And I'm then going to go out and make nice pigtails of the wires that I need, and thread them through the holes that I've cleaned up in the PCB, and solder them in place then. It is going to be slightly harder than getting the old ones out, because they had metal clips around them, but I suppose that's not going to be too much of a problem because I don't have so many wires that I need to thread. And these are the slightly strange disk drive power connectors. Don't know yet if I'm going to use them. Probably. We'll see. I'm going to get this ready. What I do have to do, and I forgot about this, I have to make sure that there's a small load on the 3.3 volt. I'm probably going to put two 10 ohm, 2.5 watt resistors just across 3.5 volts and ground, to make sure that the power supply doesn't starve out any other supply voltages just because it doesn't have any load on the 3.3 volt. The power supply is regulated, and because it is using a square wave, it does spread out the load really well. You can't really get one voltage to drop without the others dropping too. So these power supplies are a lot better for an asymmetrical load than the old ones were, because their source waveform wasn't a perfect square wave. Lucky for us, in this case, it's not so bad. And I don't think we will be overtaxing this power supply. It is a 300 watt power supply. It came from the FSP group. I do like these a lot because they are certified to be full range. You can operate them with 5 watts of load or 295, and they should be working fine always. It does have a regulated fan, and the fans are not very loud, so should be an improvement. Okay, I'm gonna get this ready and bring you back when I'm done. So this here is the first solder point I made. It's the 5-volt rail going to the onboard power connector, and it came out really well. Quite happy with that. The thing is, you want to get them tinned, and once they're tinned and soldered on, you just cut them flush, and that's the best way to go. And then you have enough room to fill up the other connection holes. And so I'm going to continue with the ground wires that come from the Amiga power connector, and I'm going to do all the wires that need to go to ground. That should be a bit simpler, I think, or I hope, because that is only 4 wires. And you can see whoever did the first job on here didn't do a really good job cleaning up his solder mess. So these cables here are really dirty and have a lot of solder still on it. So let's snip these off, remove the insulation, and twirl them up. Now, before you twirl them up, you want to put them into a position so they don't move around by themselves that much. You can put some heat shrink on the back here. It helps just a little. And if you're doing it for the first time, heat shrink really helps you out. So now we just have this one lead. We can put this through, make sure that we don't lose any tiny wires here, and we can then continue soldering that on. And it would have been an option to remove all these filter caps that are in the way, but unfortunately I'm pretty lazy, so I'm not going to do that. Then we have the wire in here. We can make sure that it has some pressure coming from the back, and now we can do the soldering job right here. Turn on the fume extractor. So first we solder the wire only, and once that's taken up or taken on enough solder, we move down to the connection. This does have the advantage that the cable will already be hot enough to take on solder from the board, and it will flow in place a lot easier. And once you think you're done, just keep at it with the soldering iron for 10 to 20 seconds. Make sure that everything has enough time to flow in place. And once you're done, give it a good snip. And careful, it's hot. There we go. Ground attached. So I do have a list of what else we need to connect. And we still have the brown wire, which is thick. We don't have that. That is, let's turn that off. That would be 50 hertz or 60 hertz derived from the power source. Basically, it's a transformer with 5 volt output that is slightly, that is 12 volts on off, depending on the phase coming from the mains. And we've got the white cable, which is minus 5 volts. I am not going to connect that now. I have a 7905 coming, which I will be hooking up to ground and the minus 12 volts, because this power supply has 500 milliamps at minus 12, and the Amiga needs 200 to 300 on the minus 12 and minus 5, so we can just make that on the fly. We do have the green. The green is The green is 5 volt DC user, and we have an orange which is 12 volts DC. Okay. Let's continue with those. Okay. So the deed is done. This took a lot longer than I had expected, but the soldering job is finished. I cleaned everything up, removed some of the flux, but I'm not going overboard with this right now because I don't know if this works or if I'm even going to keep it. But it's pretty nice. I hope that it works. This is the top side. I do have all the cables in here that I need now, and for being such a small power supply, I'm quite happy with all the stuff that is in here now. I remember back when this was new, somebody who I know took me to somebody else, and they showed me the first switch mode power supplies that had more than like 120 watts, and I was absolutely blown away. Now this here is a very nice package for an Amiga, because it does have enough connections for all the drives that I can ever put into this. And I did the mod for the minus 5 volts, which is just a little voltage regulator, a 7905 sticking off the side here. I was playing with the idea of giving it a little board and mounting that little board to the back plate, but it seemed overly complicated, and I thought I would just go for this simple solution that worked, which was just soldering that on top of the thermal load that I need to put on the 3.3 volt. And since that already had ground, I had a ground for the voltage regulator, and just pulled the 5 volts over to that. Any notable changes that I had to do were just putting the power supply on to ground, and this thing does have a 3.3 volt sense wire, so it can anticipate the load, and I just fed that one back to the 3.3 volts. Everything else is just connected as it would have been, and the 5 volt standby are unused. So if I can just put this, and of course I was able to break this little cable going to the fan at least twice. But now that we're done, it's just a matter of pushing it all back together and fastening the screw that attaches the heatsink, the internal heatsink that is not at high potential, back to the case. And then we can really carefully go ahead and give it a test. So there's one screw here that attaches the back of the internal heatsink to the case, giving it a much larger area. And there should be a screw somewhere around here for that. And if I ever find that, I'm going to put it there. Here we go. So there is a heat transfer compound on the back of it, and if I didn't mess anything up, I should be able to just power it on. I do have an old hard drive. Don't even know if that works, but it spins up. I have that connected just to have a minimal load. So switch to off. I'm just gonna put in one screw for now, because I'm pretty sure I have to take it back apart. And let's carefully give it some power. Nothing blew up. I actually tested that before. But let's turn it on and see what happens. Nothing. Nothing is not a lot. Why is nothing? I probably have some cable pinched again. It doesn't even go It doesn't even go fizz when I plug it in. Okay, it's back together. Let's start over again and first turn on the power at the wall plug. And let's see what happens then. It's probably going to blow up now. Fan starts spinning, hard drive starts whirring, and nothing else happens. So, sweet. So, let's bring in a power meter. And get the connector, plug in ground, and we're going to go through all of the pins. This one should be +5, and it is. -5, it is. 5 volt, right. 12 volt, -12 volt, that's red, yeah. 12 volt, and it should be 5 volt. That looks very good. Yes, it does. All right, everything is set up. I have the power supply in the case. I only have the power cable attached to the Amiga, nothing else, and I have the IDE drive as a ballast on there, just so in case nothing's on there, it doesn't run away with high voltages. I've tested the board, the power supply over and over again. If my documentation is correct, then the voltages are too. And I'm almost afraid to turn it on because it looks so peaceful now. It's so I can attach power. So now we have power. And if I flick the switch, I expect the screen to go black. That would be first thing. And after a few seconds, we should see, or a couple of seconds, we should see the disk prompt. I don't expect, well, I hope it doesn't go up in smoke. I hope nothing happens. It would really be a shame right now. Another deep breath. Oh God, please. Okay, black screen, that's good. The hard drive came on. No obvious smoke right now. But no action on the screen. Yay. So, we do have the 3.1 ROM prompt. Please insert a disk. Whew. Yes, it works. Well, in a slightly different matter, I managed to do the I/O shield for the cards. It looks really amazing. It was a lot of work. It basically meant making a lot of these parts and getting them to be absolutely exactly correct with the spacing. But that worked out really nice. And right now, it's that part is already glued into one piece. It fits well. All the measurements and all the numbers are absolutely perfect. So, what do I do now? I might as well add more hardware. But it doesn't really make sense because I still don't have a keyboard, so I might continue building the case. But one nice thing is the power supply appears to be working and it didn't break anything. So this is going to be it for this video. I'll leave you with a final look on the I/O shield that I was able to make. Everything looks really beautiful. It's coming out right the way I want it. You can really see the wood, you can see the laser work on it. It is kind of squarish, and I really love that. Yeah, let's continue. Thank you very much for watching, and bye-bye. Okay, so I didn't want to let you go like that. And I just realized this is an Amiga. You don't need to press any key when you insert the kickstart disk. So let's do that. Let's try starting it again. I just hooked up one disk drive. We'll see what's happening. Nothing. But we are getting the prompt to insert a disk. Let's see what happens. Nothing happens. And we get a prompt. Amiga DOS. So this is something that I can test a keyboard with. So it's working. It's really working. I think I'm going to have a drink with some bubbles in now. Celebrate the German way. Yeah, now for real. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.